Welcome in to the One Southcoast Chamber podcast, the official podcast of the One Southcoast Chamber, serving the business communities in southeastern Massachusetts. Today, I'm your host, Ian Trombley, Vice President of Public Policy, and today we're doing a Policy Pulse edition, an edition where we discuss different public policies and the impacts they have on the business community in southeastern Massachusetts. For today's episode, I'm thrilled to be joined by Lucria Ortiz, the CEO of the YMCA Southcoast. Lucria, welcome in.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, happy to have you. So for folks listening in, YMCA is a household name across the United States, but under the Southcoast umbrella. Can you tell us a little bit about what YMCA's that includes and what you're responsible for?
Sure, I'd be happy to. YMCA Southcoast is a 168-year-old institution that started in Fall River. If anyone's been to downtown Fall River, you can see our facility there, still standing from 1858.
Wow.
And we've expanded across the region to include 5 more branches. So we essentially stretch from Swansea all the way to Wareham. And we offer community connection. I think that's like one of the most important things that Ys have done for over a century is we just bring a lot of people together. And we do that across our 3 pillars. The Y is for youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. So all of our programs essentially fall under those 3 pillars. We have an intense focus on youth. We think that that's so important to ensure that kids not only have enriching time after school in our Y spaces, but are really thinking about like what's next for them, especially our teens. On the health and wellness side, you can walk into a YMCA and definitely embark on a journey dedicated to your health and wellness, whether it's swimming in a pool or exercising in a class or just doing your own thing in the weight room. And then on the social responsibility side, we have a bunch of programs, and I think today we're really going to talk a lot about food. Food has been a hot topic for YMCAs for some time, but would love to delve into that. So that's essentially what Y Southcoast looks like right now.
Awesome. And in the short time you've been here on the South Coast, you've done an incredible job integrating into the community. But for the folks who haven't had an opportunity to meet you yet or connect with you, you want to tell us a little bit about your background and kind of where you came from?
Sure, I'm happy to come here. I actually am from New England. I grew up in Connecticut, Waterbury, Connecticut, town I always say that's pretty similar to Fall River, New Bedford. Really big Portuguese community there, big Hispanic community, even Cape Verdean. Also an old industrial town, so being here makes it feels like home for me. I did all of my schooling in New England. I'm also a lawyer by trade, so I went to Northeastern Law School. So I spent all of my education years up in, for about 20 or so years in New England, but then worked in the New York City area, essentially. So I lawyered for 10 years, started off my career as a public defender, really digging into what it means to serve other people and really serve people who are in the margins. And that really interested me because of my background, right? I grew up in public housing. I had a mom on public assistance. We definitely collected food stamps, so I know that experience vividly. And I think that is what's urged me to pursue a life of service and try to help people. I did 10 years of lawyering and shifted into nonprofit because I wanted to make a larger impact, work with organizations like the YMCA that really do community building, bring people together, and help people en masse. So I've enjoyed about a 10-year Y career. I'm in my 11th year now, and I've served in different capacities in fundraising, marketing, on up to the C-suite. But this is my 3rd CEO role in a nonprofit organization, and it's been a pleasure getting to know people across the South Coast.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. You're incredibly well-rounded. You're incredibly well-spoken. We're so lucky and fortunate to have you down here, or up here, I suppose.
Yeah, right.
So how about areas of focus? You've been here for how many months now?
Just since June.
Since June, yeah. So
embarking upon about the 5th month or so.
Wow. So any areas that you've noticed early on that you want to really prioritize or focus on?
Yeah, I think I'm really interested in our teens and, what's happening for, the 13 to 18-year-old set in our communities, period. I think we're really experiencing a lot of outgrowth of what really occurred in the pandemic, especially with isolation, a little bit of detachment, and I think we've all sort of dove into this digital world. So I'm thinking a lot about, how our youth are connecting with each other now, and then what opportunities are we creating for them? And since we have teens in that after school time, and much of that oftentimes revolves around sports or wellness, I do want to shift our why a bit more into helping them think about college, career, and community connection, right? If they want to engage in service to the community, they should be able to do that through a YMCA. So that's one thing that's sort of on my vision plate right now, and to make that a regional effort. One of the things that I think the Y has such an incredible opportunity is connecting people from different backgrounds, right? So our summer camp kids, for example, in Swansea and in Fall River, they swap sites over the summer, and then they spend time together. And that is the kind of work that I'd like to engage us in more. We're sitting in such an incredible time of division in America,
right.
where people that live down the street from each other could have really opposing views, but if they just spent some more time, they'd actually find much more similarity.
Absolutely.
Right? And I've worked in Ys long enough in all kinds of YMCAs to understand that there is this thread of commonality between us as Americans.
Right, absolutely.
So I'm thinking about, as a leader, what am I doing to facilitate, that connection? And, starting with the youth is always the best place to do that.
Absolutely. And it certainly seems, from my perspective and the Chamber's perspective, that you've really, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, committed to being engaged with the community, whether the business community or, as we're going to talk about, the rest of the community. So with that, I should note we're recording this on Monday, November 3rd. We're going to talk about some of the government shutdown and the impacts it's having on SNAP benefits. So things might have changed by the time you've listened to this. But with SNAP benefits in mind, and some of those currently, as of right now, things are changing, every minute, every hour. But currently, there are no SNAP benefits are not being not paid out, but given out. So what do you think is the impact that is happening, that is having on our community here on the South Coast?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we learned over the weekend, actually, right? And so a federal district court judge, basically instructed that the contingency benefits have to be paid out. And I was actually grateful to learn that lawsuit was filed by New England organizations, right, out of Rhode Island. Right. So to see that New England Spirit of Service pushing along public policy-wise, something that's so incredibly important for all Americans, that gave me a lot of hope. So I know that in Massachusetts, there's about 1 million people who receive SNAP benefits. And then across the South Coast, it's 120,000 people that receive benefits. And, the top towns that receive that, New Bedford, Fall River, Wareham, Dartmouth, and Fairhaven, those are the top. And I think one of the things first that's really important for people is this is a food security issue, right? When we say food insecurity, we mean that people don't have steady access to food resources throughout the course of their day. And the face of that is not what you think it is. A lot of it's working people, a lot of working families with children. Children are the highest beneficiaries of SNAP, if we're just looking at SNAP, then people with disabilities, then seniors. Those are our most vulnerable people in our communities. So we're very intent on ensuring what we're doing in the food work is getting information out about where people can get food, either through the Y or our partners, and then working with our partners who supply us to increase our food supply. So I think it's really important right now for neighbors to be neighborly, right? To really think about, potentially who in your neighborhood, right? And extend that. I think having grown up with a mom on or being on public assistance, there's an incredible amount of shame, right? There's such shame. But now when we have resources that are harder to get to, and that was the case before this SNAP crisis occurred, there were still a good amount of people that didn't have or don't have regular food on the table. So when that occurs, then you have to encourage people to lean forward to help their neighbors, right? So aside from organizations, like, we can do what we can, but it's literally knocking on the door of the person next door to ensure that they're okay, right? And I would encourage that to anyone in our neighborhoods, because we don't know what the face of this looks like. Most of us don't. I think we at the Y, we do. We see people come through our markets all the time, so we understand what it looks like.
Right. No, it's a great point. And sometimes we focus so much on what institutions are helping the community. You can just walk sometimes across the street or next door to, check on your neighbors. That's a really good point. So I know you've been involved with the Full Plate Project. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, Full Plate basically was born out of the pandemic. It started in 2020. It's a partnership with the Greater Boston Food Bank, who's doing an incredible job, servicing a lot of us organizations down here in the South Coast with food. So we get about 100,000 pounds of food a month from them. We stage that all on our farm, and I'll talk about our farm in a moment. And then we get out that food through 5 pantries that we hold across the South Coast. And if you're looking for a YMCA food pantry, you can easily go on our website, which is YMCA Southcoast.org. And as soon as you get on the page, you'll see it. So we have our November schedule up. Our pantries are usually held on Tuesdays and Fridays. And, we don't have any requirements. There's no eligibility requirements. It doesn't matter what town you live in. We just ask some brief questions about your household size. And that's all, right? So I want to emphasize that to people, this is very accessible for people if they're, looking to get some extra
And as
food.
far as the household size, is that... is there a disqualifier there, or is it
There
just for
isn't.
your information?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we basically build bags of food, ahead of time. We try to organize, the operation. And so, for us, and it's also for data purposes too, we need to collect data, to know whether it's smaller or larger households, depending. But depending on your household size, we want to get you the right amount of food.
Yep, gotcha.
So that's essentially it.
Okay, that's incredible. So no questions asked. There's 5 pantries, and you can find them at your website on Tuesdays and what was the other day?
Tuesdays and Fridays.
Tuesdays and Fridays. That's
Yeah,
incredible.
so if you go to our website, you'll see the exact days and the locations.
Okay.
But essentially from Fall River all the way to Wareham.
Wonderful. And you mentioned a farm. You want to talk about the farm a little bit?
Yeah, I will. So we may be one of very few YMCAs that have a full working farm. It's located in Dartmouth, and it's our YMCA sharing the Harvest Farm. And essentially, we are basically raising food, growing food during the growing season, and then we give all of that food away. So it's about 40 to 55,000 pounds of food a year. Wow. And we work closely with the United Way, who has a very intricate pantry program. And so we're getting that food out during the growing season, and it's just tapering off now. But, if you went to the farm a couple of weeks ago, you'd have seen an inordinate amount of squash and other things. As a sister project to our Full Plate is our farm, and that is really important for us because we're getting fresh produce out, right? So if you know anything about food work, you understand that there are food deserts, and food deserts mean that people don't have access to fresh, quality, nutritious food. So getting our food out, through those markets is really critical part of our work as well.
Wow. And do you know what percentage would you say of the, the food that goes to your 5 pantries is from the farm? by any chance?
Yeah, so the farm essentially, we do some of that work, but we do it mostly through United Way.
Okay.
Because one of the things that, we try to examine is like reach, right? And so for some of our YMCAs, you may have to drive up. But for some of the United Ways, you can walk up.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so really getting into neighborhoods, and United Way serves New Bedford and the surrounding area. So essentially, we're basically getting food across the region and then more concentrated in places where there might be food deserts.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to share regarding the SNAP benefits and access to food, whether you receive SNAP benefits or not over the next coming weeks with you or other partners in the community that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are, one of our biggest partners is the Greater Boston Food Bank.
Yep.
And they have a great resource called findhelp.org. And you could just type in your zip code and find all of the area pantries. We're just one. There are plenty of pantries that we work with and partner with. Damien's Pantry, for example, or Damien's Place in Wareham. That's an excellent pantry. And then there's, organizations that actually do the policy work and gather people. The Marion Institute is doing wonderful work around food policy. And then I would say other organizations, Coastal Food Shed is another, and Project Bread. So the YMCA is a convener organization, right? Like we really like to convene a lot of partners and other orgs doing the same work, but we're not the only ones on the block doing that. And so it's important for people to be able to find resources close to them. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. And I know you've directed us to help.org, your website. Is there a place to call at the Y, or any, if you're just kind of looking for direction on where to go, do you have someone who might be able to send on, or is the website, would you say, is that the best place to go?
The website is the best place to go. And then, we have some info emails on the website, and our team is very responsive. But it is important, if you are going to those pantries, to share if there's more need, right? If you're seeing more need in your neighborhood, if there are things that you need, because we'll communicate that up. We were lucky to be on an agency call with about 160 other people just today with the Greater Boston Food Bank.
Oh, wow.
So our larger food banks and organizations dedicated to food are convening and gathering people. And they are also sharing with the governor, what needs are locally.
Right.
So it is important for us organizations to hear from people in terms of what their needs are. So I would tell people not to hesitate.
Right? Absolutely.
In terms of what it is, right? And we'll work to make sure that that's supplied in pantry.
Yeah. It certainly seems there's no lack of services, particularly here on the South Coast. We have so many great community partners, and it's sometimes the disconnect isn't for lack of service; it's the lack of communication or knowledge that's getting out there. So the YMCA being a convener, like you said, is wonderful. You guys are doing such great work.
And I will say, it's not just nonprofit. We work closely with a lot of our business partners as well, and so we'll see donations coming in from them in order. So this is like a full team sport when it comes to managing crisis, because this is how we're seeing this. This is crisis, and this is food right now. Down the pike is WIC, which is Women, Infants, and Children. That's another a food program. Head Start and others. And so this allows us to flex our muscle around erecting teams together that are not just nonprofit, but also the business community. And I'm very thankful that we have such a strong ecosystem of connection across industry here, because that's what's going to help, all of our communities sustain themselves when we're hitting these kinds of crises.
Yeah, completely agree. The South Coast is really good about that. You see business, nonprofits, community leaders, elected officials really coming together, like we saw in COVID, like we're seeing now. It's really encouraging. Before we wrap up, is there anywhere that people can find you, follow the Y, if they want to learn more or stay up to date on what you guys are working on?
Yeah, for sure. You can find us on social media. We're on, YMCA Southcoast, on Facebook, on Instagram. Yep. We're definitely on LinkedIn as well. Okay. So, I would say those 3 channels and our website. But our team is pretty active, posting what we're doing, but also posting a lot of what our partners are doing too.
That's important.
Yeah, we want to make sure, that we're just filling the channels with what's out there across the region. So you can always find updates. We have Y Southcoast, and then if there is a YMCA in your area, you can also look for those YMCA's Facebook pages. Okay. So Stoico, First Fed, that's in Swansea, Fall River, they each have their own Facebook page as well, so you can see what's happening locally is there.
Great. Well, thank you, Lucria. We're so glad to have you join us on the podcast today, and we're thrilled to have you join our community. I mean, you're adding so much value already. You can certainly see it. You can hear it, in your voice and your excitement. So we really want to thank you, for being with us today. And thank you for joining us. I'll close it out there on the One Southcoast Chamber podcast. Make sure you follow and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts so you can stay tuned when we release new episodes. Also, remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok at One Southcoast Chamber for daily updates. Thanks, and see you next time.
Thank you.